Big data technologies in demand. In the previous sessions, we have learned what is data and what is big data, what are different sources of big data, and how to define big data, and what is the relation between big data and Hadoop. And when I say Hadoop, again Hadoop is equal to HDFS plus MapReduce. So we have a platform where we can store the big data. So we got to know what is the new platform that actually deals with big data. Now there are other technologies as well in the market. So let us see big data technologies in demand. Now if you look at all these technologies, Hadoop, which deals with big data, Hadoop admin also deals with big data. Now you have something called as Apache Spark, Apache Kafka, MongoDB, data science, Informatica, and talent. So as a big data developer, we should be aware of all these technologies, because as a developer we should be knowing what are the different technologies we have in big data. But the point is here, though every technology is somehow related to big data, but all the technologies, if you want to learn any of these technologies, first of all we need to have a good understanding of Hadoop and its file system and MapReduce. So Hadoop is the central point of all these technologies. So once you learn Hadoop, then you can master any of these technologies. Nowadays we keep on speaking more about Apache Spark. So we would be also introducing, or we would be talking about Apache Spark and its how actually it's good then compared to the existing technologies. So as we have defined what is big data. So big data is nothing but lots of data. To have a revision on that, big data is nothing but lots of data. So this lots of data is nothing but web logs, sensor data, or retail transactional data. So any data which is humongous, or any data again which has got volume, velocity, and variety can be called as big data. So collection of data sets so large and complex, so it has become difficult to process and to handle by the traditional relational database models. Now we have been doing, we have been handling the big data, but it has become a little difficult for the traditional relational database models. So that's when we had to look for any of the other avenues which can actually handle this big data. So the challenges of big data includes capturing, storing, searching, transferring, and analysis of the big data. Now when I say different forms of data, so web logs, sensor data, retail transactional data, all this of data actually they are of different forms. We cannot say that web logs do have the same data as the sensor data. So if you look at the form of data, here again I wanted to reiterate that the form of data here is very important. The form of data is very important. So we have been saying that we are dealing with big data, but what is big data? It's a combination again. It's a combination of variety. It's a combination of volume, variety, and velocity and veracity. But fourth point, we will not consider it that much. Only three V's generally we concentrate on. And out of these three, volume, velocity, and variety is very important. So data, again we are dealing with not only one form of data, because relational database models deal with only one form of data. Though the data dealt with the relational data models is very humongous, very huge, but when it comes to different form of data, that is the problem with RDBMS. Now as we have seen, when I say big data, it's a combination of, I would say, web logs, sensor logs, and different forms of data. So if I wanted to deal with all this form of data, I need to have a different avenue which actually deals with all these forms of data. So when I say different forms of data, here the point to remember is we have three forms of data, that is structured, unstructured, and semi-structured. Now here I wanted to give you an understanding of what is a structured and unstructured and semi-structured data. So now yes, so here our point is now big data technologies in demand big data technologies in demand. So when I say the big data technologies in demand, we have, you know, Hadoop is Hadoop, and in which again we have Hadoop admin, Hadoop administration. We have something called as Apache Spark. So it's actually, this is taking so much of limelight these days. So we also would be talking what is Apache Spark and what is the difference between, when it comes to processing of the data, what is the difference between MapReduce and Apache Spark. And also we have something called as Apache Kafka, and we have Informatica, and we have Talent. Now all these are the technologies in demand when it comes to big data. So what I would say is, in order to have expertise on any of these technologies, in order to achieve expertise on any of these technologies, we need to have a clear and very concrete understanding of what Hadoop is, what actually Hadoop does, what are the different things that Hadoop has. So again, I want to just remind you that Hadoop is nothing but a beautiful file system called as HDFS, and also a MapReduce is something called, which is a programming paradigm called as MapReduce. It's a batch processing, or you can also call it as a parallel programming paradigm. So Hadoop, when I say Hadoop, this is equal to HDFS plus MapReduce. So HDFS plus MapReduce. So Hadoop is equal to HDFS plus MapReduce. Now again, so we have been saying that so much of data is being generated. I mean, over the past a few years, you would see lot of data is being generated, and out of which 80% is unstructured data. Now here we'll have a clear understanding what are the different forms of data that we have. What are the different forms of data that we have? So usually whenever whenever they speak of Hadoop or big data, remember there are three forms of data we would be talking about. One is called as structured data. One is called as structured data. The second one is called as semi-structured data. And the last one, the third one, is called as unstructured data. Now, what is structured data? So the name itself says it has got some structure. In other way of saying, any data which has got a particular schema is called as structured data. Example, the data which exists in the form of rows and columns. Nothing but the data which exists in tables can be called as structured data. So structured data has a proper schema defined for that. So structured data which has a proper schema. Now, for example, all the data in tables, okay, data in a table, or a data which has got row and column format. So row and column format, nothing but a table, row and column format. So a structured data is nothing but which has got a proper schema is called as structured data. So you define the schema, then you keep the data on it. That is structured data. Now, of course, we also can all the data in that are all the relational database models or database models is kind of structured data. Not only that, XML. One of the examples is also can be coded as XML. So a lot of people think that XML is kind of semi-structured, but if you have a proper schema for XML as well, so XML also can be considered as a structured form of data. Next is semi-structured. Now semi-structured is something you have a schema, but schema is often ignored. You have a schema, but that schema is often ignored. That means it is kind of looser. Schema is defined, but it is often ignored. So schema here is defined, however it is but it is ignored. So Unstructured data is you have a schema for that, but it is often ignored. So very important. Now the last form of data that we deal with in big data is unstructured data. Unstructured data. Now unstructured, it has got no schema at all, no schema. So no schema defined, but it is often ignored. Structured data which has got a proper schema, but whereas unstructured, no schema at all. Example, so here for the semi-structured data in an Excel file, so if you look at the cell of an Excel sheet, any form of data or anything you can have in that particular cell, so that can be defined as a semi-structured data. When it comes to unstructured data, there is no proper schema defined, and the example is all the video, audio, image, video, audio, image or text files which has got no schema can be called as unstructured data. So when lot of data out there, and we have these three forms of data, out of which unstructured being the highest contributor of the big data. So now let us see now how much data actually the contribution of unstructured data is in the universe. By 2020, International Data Corporation predicts that the entire digital data would reach to 40 GB. So now you look at this diagram now. So only the comparison we have is the structured and unstructured. Now structured is in the blue colored box and unstructured is in the light blue colored, navy blue colored box. So if like 2011 you have same contribution of structured and unstructured. So but from you look at 2012 to 2017, there is a huge gap in between structured and unstructured data. So this is how, that's when, so when I say structured and lot of unstructured data, that means as I've been saying that structured data can be handled by the relational database models. But if you look at the kind of exponential increase of the unstructured data, but you see 2017 you will have lot of unstructured data in the universe, and definitely we want something or somebody who can actually deal with this unstructured form. So it's very clear that structure can be handled by the relational database models. That has been happening. All the RDBMS related database models, they are good, they are dealing with the structured data, no problem. But over the past 5 years, if you look at from 2011 to 2017, you have so much of unstructured data. So definitely we should need something which can actually handle and process. So the challenge is to first to store and to analyze and to process. So in order to accomplish these three of the characteristics or three of the tasks, we need some avenue where we can store, analyze and process the data. Right. So now when it comes to big data, it's very important that we should be talking about predictive and prescriptive analytics. Predictive and prescriptive analytics. So when I say predictive and prescriptive analytics, so now let us understand what is predictive and what is prescriptive analytics. Predictive and prescriptive analytics. Now predictive analytics, let us understand what is predictive analytics. Now predictive analytics is something here which actually predicts. Yes, the name itself says it's a predictive analytics. Let us say you are browsing a website to buy some merchandise online. to buy some merchandise online. For example, I log into a Myntra.com and I'm trying to buy something, some shoe, a pair of shoe from Myntra.com, and I bought one pair of shoe from Myntra.com. Now everything was good. So again next week what I have done is I want to buy something else. I want to buy a shirt or I want to buy something else. Now what I have done is I again logged into the same Myntra.com website. The moment I am doing some transactions or doing something, immediately a sudden pop-up has come in and it says you have something better, you know, for you, or we have something better for you. We are offering some other product at a discount of 50% or the 30%. So the point of surprise here is how do that particular website know that I have been searching for that particular, you know, merchandise online, because I did not tell them, but still they could able to identify what is my need. So that is called as predictive analysis. What do you need? What do you need at present? And what do you need in the future? That is called as predictive analysis. That means anything that you do online, any click that you click online, everything is being captured and that is being analyzed. So always you might have seen whenever you are trying to buy any online air tickets, the moment you log into one particular online to buy a particular website to buy on a ticket, immediately something pops up saying that we are offering a hotel. Let us say I am trying to book a ticket to New York. Immediately some pop-up would come and says that in New York these are the hotels which gives you so much of discount. All the things are happening. How? It's only because of this data being captured and analyzed. So that is called as predictive analytics. Next is prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive analytics is nothing but they not only ask you to buy their product, but they also prescribe certain things to do. For example, I am buying something for my little boy. Okay, let's say I am buying pair of shoes for the rainy season. Okay, so what they do is, as you are doing, again after few days, again if you are trying to log into that particular website and do some transactions, immediately they prescribe you something. That means on particular season you bought these kind of merchandise from our website. Now as the summer is coming, you can also buy so and so things for your kids for the summer. So that is called, they also prescribe something. So prediction and also the prescription. So they predict, they prescribe, they ask you to something, they suggest you something. So all these things, it's not that easy to be done actually. So everything, so where all these decisions have come from, it's only because the moment you log into a particular website, all your actions, all your clicks or your searches have been captured and kept somewhere, and later they are analyzed, and based on that analysis they are suggesting you something. So there is a lot. So big data is something where you'll have everything captured and analyzed. So that is what you as a big data developer you should be knowing what is predictive and prescriptive analytics. Now we have a great example for this a target and big data use case. So we have something called as target and big data use case. So we'll also see what is that actually. Target and big data use case. This is a famous use case actually, which actually speaks about this predictive and prescriptive analytics. Right. So that's a use case that actually happened. So here what they say is every time you go shopping, you share intimate details about your consumption patterns with the retailers. So what happens is, whenever you say you share anything to that retailers, they always capture what you're doing on the website. So what happened was, a girl actually she came online and she actually started buying something which are related to prenatal, pregnancy related things online. So from the target. So what the target has done is, so immediately they have sent a post to her home saying that after 9 months you can buy these kind of products for your kid. So when they received that particular information, in fact her father actually filed a defamation case against Target, saying that how could these people know that my daughter is actually going to, is pregnant or going to conceive, or in this process. So after 9 months he found out that her daughter is really pregnant. So that's what happens. So when you're trying to do something online, so your data is being captured. So what the girl had done is, she actually might have visited the Target website and she actually tried to buy something which are related to pregnancy or infants or something. So immediately they have predicted and prescribed, and they sent a letter to her home saying that after 9 months probably you can buy these other things, so for your kid. So this is a very, this has been published in all the newspapers. So Target and big data use case, how actually the companies actually would know what a customer needs, what is the customer actually, what are the requirement for all the customers. So it's a use case. So remember, so Target and pregnancy big data use case. Now here again the point that we have to remember is, now here also we should be speaking big data and about the cloud and about the machine learning. Now I also wanted to give you some information. So we have seen what is predictive and what is prescriptive analytics. Now we also would talk about something about, we know what is big data, we know what is big data, and we also should know what is cloud or what is cloud computing, and we also should know what is machine learning. Now when it comes to big data, it's a combination of all different forms of data, and which actually it's a combination of 3 ways. So now what is cloud computing? Now here when I say cloud computing, it is also a platform where you can store so much of data on a hiring basis. You pay for the days that you have used their servers. So that is cloud computing. And the cloud computing is, we have certain companies actually which actually have this the cloud computing, where they will actually lend the space to store something. For example, if you look at the Amazon Web Services, now here AWS, it's a Amazon Web Services is a company where it actually lends the server space to be used. Now they have something called as you have all the details pertaining to what are the things that they would provide you and how much they would charge you per hour. So that's how you can choose, and you can have your data, or if you think that excess of data that you have for the company, so you can contact any company which actually provides you with cloud computing, and based on the pricing list you can have you can choose what are those the server, how many servers, what could be the configuration, how many hard disks that you want. All these things can be done. So this is one thing. And next is machine learning. Now when I say machine learning, what is that machine learning? That is very important. So as a Hadoop developer, you should be knowing what is big data and what is cloud computing, okay, and what is machine learning. So machine learning is something will make a machine to identify. For example, if you look at this, and this is a marker, and now this is a mobile phone, this is a marker, and this is a mobile phone. Let us say I have 10 markers and 10 mobile phones. So by looking at them, I can segregate, yes, this is a marker, this is a mobile phone. But how can I make my system identify these two and have a segregation by itself? So that's when the concept of machine learning would come into picture. So machine learning is again is run by total algorithms. So there are certain algorithms that actually speak when it comes to machine learning. So machine learning will make a machine to identify and take certain decisions. So to identify and take certain decisions, that is called as machine learning. So big data, cloud computing, machine learning, they work, you know, like as a group. So it's a combination. So big data is somehow related to cloud computing, and cloud computing somehow related to machine learning. So as a Hadoop developer, you should be knowing all these terminologies, and we should be in a position where we should understand what is big data and what is computing and cloud computing and what is machine learning. So cloud computing, actually they have some infrastructure as a service, and I think platform as a service. So they lend the systems, you know. If you think that I have so much of data in my company, so what do? Then you go for that company and, you know, let them lend you some space for some time, and you pay for those days, and, you know, once your work is finished, you can come back. So that is one form of. Here cloud computing also deals with big data, and the machine learning is also deals with big data. So now you should be knowing what are the different things that you have, you know, in relation to big data and cloud computing. Now here, in order to do any analysis, either it is predictive analysis or prescriptive analysis, okay, again we have something called as Google skyboxing. Now Google skyboxing is something, see, over the sky it captures all the images of certain things. Let us say you take, for example, oil reservoir. So oil reservoir, Google skyboxing. So now here in this, right, so here what it does is it tries to capture all the images of different scenarios. For example, if you take the example of an oil reservoir, so what it does is it tries to capture the image of the oil reservoir, and it would say that how much oil exists in each of the vessels, or what is that, you know, has to be done. So Google skyboxing is also one of the technologies used in the form of to predict and prescribe. So predict and prescriptive analysis. So predictive and prescriptive analysis. So in all these analysis, whatever we do, one thing is common is data. Either you do target, you take target pregnancy big data use case, or you see Google skyboxing images, or anything, machine learning, cloud computing, anything the everything is big data. Everything is big data. So here, and not only big data, here we have different forms of data. So now we have seen what is structured data, what is unstructured data, and also we have seen what is semi-structured data. Now here these are some certain common big data customer scenarios where you would see Hadoop being used, or what are the different companies right now which are using Hadoop. eBay is for web and e-tailing, so recommendation engine, search quality, or abuse and click fraud detection. So on all these things, eBay is using Hadoop. In telecommunications, you will see China Mobiles is using Hadoop, and Aadhaar, it's actually done in India. You have seen the Aadhaar details. So all the Aadhaar details actually, the whole project was done using Hadoop. Now healthcare, you take banking or you take retail. So these are all the things. These are all the things actually, different companies actually who actually used big data.